I've disappeared off of YouTube for the past couple of weeks building a mobile app, and I'm proud to say that I was able to get it into an MVP stage within 1 week. Now, you might ask yourself, how's that even possible? Now, there's a lot of ways where you can build mobile apps very quickly. You can search it up on the internet, but for me, I used AI tools effectively and was able to write up to 95% of the code using AI. A little bit of background about myself: I'm a full stack software engineer at a Fortune 500 company, and while I do know how to build full stack web applications, I've actually never built a mobile app at all. So I really had to lean in on the AI to build exactly what I wanted. So I've spent the last couple of months trying to perfect my workflow and trying to get to that perfect workflow that will allow me to ship mobile applications into the App Store within 30 days. So if you want to build mobile applications using AI, or you're struggling to do so at the current moment, this video is for you. I'm going to be revealing my entire workflow that has allowed me to get to the MVP stage within 1 week. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, the language that we will be using in order to develop this application will be React Native, because React Native allows you to publish your app both on the Android store and the App Store using a single code base. And I'm going to assume that you already have a Claude Code or a Cursor subscription. And if not, you can watch all the other videos that I have about these different AI agents and how to build stuff with it. But I'm going to assume that you already have these two different services and you know how to use them. Okay, for phase 2 of developing your mobile application, now in the context of developing different features, I'm going to focus on what the first thing you should start working on is. And before anything, I always start with the sign up and login page. As soon as you get authentication down in your application, you've basically unlocked the entire world when it comes to developing your mobile application. Once you are able to log in, sign up, pass authentication tokens through your app, you are able to start developing all the other features. But before you get started, let's get one thing clear. You don't want to begin implementing direct. I often see people make the mistake of going on Cursor or Claude Code and telling their agent, hey, build me this login and sign up page and get started with it. And that's it. That's their prompt. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a lot of errors. The secret to one-shotting features is planning. What you want to do is always start off by creating a folder called new features. And in your new features folder, you're going to have separate Markdown files for separate features. Now, Markdown files are like text documents for AI. It's just a file format for writing text. Before you start actually developing any features, you're going to go ahead and walk through your mobile app. Step by step, you're going to identify separate features that you want to develop. Perhaps you're trying to create an app that calculates calories, and the feature is you take a picture of your food and it counts how many calories or macros you have. Perhaps you're trying to create an app that transcribes meeting notes. These are separate features, so you want to put them in separate Markdown files. Now, what you can do is you can go onto your AI, and in planning mode, you're going to specify to the agent that we are going to enter planning mode, do not write any code, and specifically only write into Markdown files the feature that I'm about to describe. You're going to begin describing the feature, and you're going to read through what the AI was able to write. Any key points that are missing in that Markdown file, you will identify and you will tell your AI. And every time you identify a new feature, as I mentioned before, you're going to create a new Markdown file. And this splits up your entire app into sizable chunks that the AI agent and the AI model. Now, once you've formulated all the different Markdown files for all the different features in your MVP app, you want to join all these Markdown files into a single Markdown file and split up everything into phases to make sure that everything should be in correct sequence. The features must be developed from start to finish, and that these features should be developed in a chronological manner that makes sense. You don't want to develop the full app before you develop the sign up, sign in page. Then you'll have a single Markdown large file, and you also have smaller mini Markdown files that are subject specific and feature specific. And that's how you begin planning for your mobile app, and also make sure you're minimizing the amount of hallucination that your AI agent is committing. Okay, so now we can start officially prompting. Let's take, for example, the sign up and log in feature that I was talking about previously, but you can do this for all the other features. You're going to tag your MD file that has all the requirements for the login and sign up feature. If you've used the AI to build and write down that Markdown file, it will contain all the information that it needs. Now, I understand that the Markdown file has a lot of context, but you want to use your Markdown files as supporting documents and not the prompts themselves. This is a very important key point. A lot of people think that the Markdown files are just a prompt and you can tag them, click enter, and it will start developing it. No, write a prompt that goes deep into what you want and use the Markdown file as a supporting document. And once you've clicked enter, you've waited, and the feature has been built out, you'll start noticing that you might have some errors. It's very important to understand how to fix these errors because you can waste a lot of tokens trying to chase a solution for a bug when in reality you could fix it using this one simple trick. If you have errors, use screenshots, trace back the steps you took in order to produce that error, and then tag in your error of the logs, and then you can solve the problem. With these 3 supporting documents, I guarantee you that you can one-shot solve any error that is being caused on your app. Once you've built out all the features that you have, it's time to make your UI look beautiful. Now, in this chapter, we're going to improve the look of your app. Now, I mentioned Mobbin before, and Mobbin is a great resource for looking at different UI elements for your mobile app. Once you've found a component or a button or anything that you want to copy, as I mentioned before, take a screenshot and tag it in and ask your AI agent to mimic it in pixel perfection. This keyword is very important. I noticed when I added make sure this is pixel perfect, 9 times out of 10, it's able to produce an exact copy of it. And when I don't add make sure you have it as pixel as perfect as possible, I notice it just goes on a tangent and produces whatever it wants. Now, this is super important. If you are a designer, congratulations, you've basically shortcutted your way to building a beautiful app. Figma has a MCP server that allows you to directly implement front ends using your AI agent. But from what I understand, if you have a Figma file, you can connect your MCP server to your AI agent and tell it to create your front end exactly like the Figma that you have. That puts us at chapter 5, which is arguably the most important chapter out of these, is my advice and findings for developing applications. The first thing is use documentation. In Cursor, you can tag documentation directly by adding a link to that doc folder into your context of the chat. For example, if you get a Firebase error, go to the documentation related to React or Supabase, tag that specific page into your chat window and ask it to solve different problems. That makes one-shotting features much easier. The second thing that's really important, most of you are going to be using an API of sorts in your mobile app. Make sure you're not calling your AI API on the front end. This is good for local development, but once you get serious about deploying your app, you will have to migrate it over to the back end and hide it behind something like a Firebase function. You don't want your app directly calling APIs from the front end. That is a recipe for disaster. It is a security risk because anybody could potentially steal your API key from the front end or spam your API and charge you thousands of dollars in API credits. And that leads me to my third and final point, which is make sure you add rate limiting every time you are interacting with an external API. If you are interacting with an external API that could charge you money for every time you make an API call, add rate limiting. And rate limiting is limiting the amount of times a user can call your API. And this is very important because if you don't do this, someone could do 1,000 calls in a single minute and cost you hundreds of dollars. When you add rate limits, you are able to identify spammy behavior and stop them in their tracks. Rate limiting is super important. You can research about it and your AI can implement it very easily. But that's it for the video today. That's how I built my mobile application in 1 week. And I used all these steps in this video. If you've enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, please leave a like and a comment and a subscribe. I'm trying to get to 20,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and only you can help. And I also have a Twitch account. I'm trying to get into live streaming. So if you're interested in live streaming, sometimes I do AI and coding stuff, but other times I'm just doing just chatting and gaming related stuff. So if you're interested in that, I would love to see you on there. Make sure you follow in the description down below. But that's it for the video today. You can be anywhere in the world doing anything, but you're watching me today, and I appreciate that a lot. So be safe, be well, and I'll see you next time.